So I came across this study the other day that is looking at who discusses politics at work, who feels bullied for discussing politics at work, who lies about their politics at work. And it's just like, this combines my two favorite things in the world: workplace and interpersonal relationships, and news and politics. I was like, this is one I have to cover. Now, before we get too far into it though, I do think it is important to note that I'm not sure I fully believe that this is like a credible study, and I'm going to tell you why. This is from a company called Zeddy. I don't know anything about this company. That is not why I question the credibility of this study at all. But the first thing you want to do anytime you're looking at a study, especially one that is clearly just created for these infographics, this is just for marketing purposes, that's all this is to put it out on the internet so people have something to click on and to market whatever this company does. But the first thing I always do is go down to the bottom to find the methodology. And I'm sorry, the methodology for this is a little bit questionable for me. It says we ran a study of just over 1,000 people, which is a lower sample, about their experiences discussing politics in the workplace, blah, blah, blah. Respondents were asked to identify their political affiliation. The sample size for political affiliations were as follows: Democrats, 454, Republicans, 251, Independents, 248, Libertarians, 36, Green Party, 8, other 4. So really, I mean, they've dramatically oversampled Democrats in this study and have undersampled Republicans, and I'm not sure about the exact percentage of independents in the country, to be honest. I mean, that seems to be maybe even a little bit low for me. So I suspect this is going to be a dramatically oversampled Democrat study, but that's not to say we can't learn a thing or two, and I do really think that some of the data is very interesting. So we're going to go through some of their findings, and I'm going to talk about what I think it means. But before we get into that, folks, if you're enjoying this channel, I do daily content, well, mostly daily content around news, politics, culture, really whatever I find interesting, whatever stories I feel like are not getting enough coverage out there. If you enjoy what I'm doing, I hope you'll consider subscribing to this channel. You know, YouTube's been making it really difficult for me to grow the channel lately. They've basically been cordoning off my content to only people who are subscribed. So if you appreciate what I'm doing, if you want to continue to receive videos from me, go ahead, click that red subscribe button down below. And if you really want to go the extra mile to help me out, you can share it out with your friends and family, give the video a thumbs up, leave a comment, tell me what you think. I greatly appreciate it. All right, let's dig into this data. So, controversial conversations. It turns out, like, a lot of people in this study say they're talking about politics at work. 83% of people are talking about politics, which, guys, stop talking about politics at work. This is one of the primary things you could do to really kill your interpersonal relationships, because it is very easy to assume that every single person you talk to agrees with you. And as we're going to see later in the study, a lot of people are lying about what they believe when it comes to discussing politics at work. Really, the rule of thumb for me is I don't talk about politics in my business ever. I recommend people don't talk about politics at work. Every once in a while, I will admit, every once in a while, I do use Donald Trump as an example of something, but I always do it in a very neutral way where I always be sure to specify, like, I don't really care who you voted for. He is an example of this work style type. It's honestly just the easiest thing to do because everyone knows who he is. But I never take sides when I'm talking about it in the course of my job. And frankly, you shouldn't either. It is the quickest thing, especially with how divided the country is right now, to kill any previously healthy workplace relationships. Let's see. And I'm gonna link this study below if you guys want to go and read all this. I really am just interested in some of the data. So we're gonna look at these infographics. So everyone has an opinion. Negative emotions and experiences from talking about politics by political affiliation. So this is where I think some of the data is really interesting, and it holds up that Republicans are the ones that are having a tougher time in this divided environment. So the percentage of having difficulty working with coworkers due to political beliefs, of those who answered yes, and here again, good news, 80% of people, 81% actually, said that they don't have difficulty working with coworkers of different political beliefs. Let's just take a moment to appreciate that. But 19% said they were, and of that, Republicans had the most. 36.9% of Republicans who answered that they were having difficulty working with coworkers due to political beliefs, higher than the Democrats, higher than independents. Percentage who feel bullied by their coworkers due to political beliefs. Again, only almost 13% of people answered yes, which is good, thumbs up. But Republicans really took the cake on this one. Of those who answered yes, 46.8% of Republicans who answered yes did feel that they were bullied by their coworkers. I mean, I think that's crazy, and it really shows you why so many Republicans are afraid to speak up. Although I do think it's worth noting that, listen, of those who answered yes to this, 21.4% of them were Democrats. So that's still a good number of Democrats, and I think that for all the Republicans and conservatives and Trump supporters who feel like they're ostracized for their beliefs, just keep in mind that there are people on the left who also feel ostracized for their beliefs. Let's keep going. Percentage who feel disrespected by their coworkers due to political beliefs. This was a little bit higher, but again, Republicans have the most in this one. And then percentage feeling uncomfortable at work due to political discussions. I mean, listen, Republicans and independents are neck and neck with this one. And then we have a quote here. One of my old supervisors at work asked me who I was voting for, and when I told her, she scoffed at me. After that day, she never treated me the same again. Of course, we don't know what his political affiliation is there, but this is why and I take experiences like this with a grain of salt. You're going to see this with some of the other quotes we're going to look at. This is about perspective. Sometimes if you, like, say if you're a Trump supporter and you accidentally let it slip that you voted for Trump to your very uber Biden supporting Black Lives Matter fist holding up boss, and you know that they have different beliefs than you, it is very easy to assume that every negative interaction you have with them after that interaction is a result of those political beliefs, when in fact it may have nothing at all to do with them. You just don't know. But it's very easy to read intent into it, which is why I always take quotes like this with a grain of salt, because it is all about perspective. They're trying to read intent into other people. And regardless of whether or not the left thinks that intent doesn't matter, I actually do think that intent matters. I think that we should generally give people the benefit of the doubt. Sometimes people have a bad day. Sometimes people get into an argument with their spouse in the morning. Sometimes there's other reasons that you might be having interpersonal problems, like a conflict in work style, things like that. So I usually try not to subscribe specific intent around these things, because usually that intent is not perceived accurately. Anywho, let's keep going. Now, this is really interesting. This is the one where they start to ask people if they are lying about their politics at work. And 83.5% say no. But of the 16.5% who said, yeah, I lie about my politics at work, 50.2% were Republicans. Of course. Let's see. Feelings towards other workplace lies around politics. Feelings towards political issues. 46.1% of Republicans say they were lying. 46% of Republicans say they were lying, of the overall percentage of people who say they were lying, 46% of the people who said they were lying about their voting decision / voting plan in the election were Republicans. Of those who said they were lying about their feelings towards the government officials or politicians, almost 52% of them were Republicans. Look at this one. Of those who are lying about the political party that they supported, 62% of them are Republicans. Only 19% of them are Democrats, 19% of them are independent. So, yeah, I mean, it makes a ton of sense. This person says, I am a conservative surrounded by liberals. At a previous job, I made the mistake long ago of disagreeing with an Obama fan about policy, and it caused quite a stir. They're not tolerant at all. They passed judgment on me big time, and everything changed after that. So I never talk about politics in public at all. Ever. Especially now the conservatives are being harassed and attacked, insulted, belittled, censored, ostracized. No thanks, libs. You never know how I think. You'll never know how I think anyway. So again, just like the other person who we don't know the political persuasion of, I want to just say that I don't think that shutting up and keeping quiet about your beliefs is a good idea in terms of overall life. People need to be able to speak up about their beliefs. Expression is a gift that we have all been given purely by being here. However, shutting up at work and keeping that information to yourself is almost always the best policy. But in life, like, you shouldn't have to shut down your entire life over these things. Listen, next week I'm going to be having a live stream discussion with someone who was recently asked to resign from their position as the head of a chamber of commerce because people found out that he tweeted positive things about the president. That is nonsense. And by the president, I don't mean quasi-president-elect Biden. I mean Trump, right? This person was asked to resign from their position as the president of a chamber of commerce because they supported Trump. That crap shouldn't be happening. People shouldn't be going and stalking other people's social media profiles to find this stuff out. That, what you do in your private time should be fair game, and that is the line that employers should draw. I don't care who you vote for. I don't care if you go protest. I don't care what you think, as long as you don't bring it into the office and as long as it doesn't affect your work. That should be the general line in the sand. But this idea that we should have to shut up in all aspects of our lives, that's going to backfire on you eventually. All right, how political conversations happen at work, most of the time in small groups and one-on-one conversations. There's nothing really surprising to me about that. Respondent says politics were discussed at work on an average of 7.9 days a month, nearly a third of days they spent at work. So it's really essentially that's like not that often. It's like every once in a while. I'm sure it's not the most talked about thing in the workplace. Industries talking about politics, medical and healthcare. That doesn't surprise me at all. Actually, guess what? Medical and healthcare is one of the most toxic industries that you can work in. In fact, nursing, people charged with taking care of others. Nursing is the number one profession for workplace bullying. Number one, and it's not by a little bit. It is like by a mile and a half. In fact, if you read studies around workplace bullying, and this is true over, the decades that this research has been done, it is very, very popular to study it in the nursing industry precisely because the nursing industry is so dang toxic. So any of you parents out there who have kids that want to be nurses when they grow up, the best advice I can give you is it really is not generally the healthiest of industries. I get it's a noble profession. We need nurses and all that, but it is a very, very, very challenging job beyond just the function of the job. So this actually doesn't surprise me, not one little bit. Oh, check out this quote. This quote is one of my favorites. My racist coworkers were talking about how Mexicans should be sent across the border and banned. I strongly doubt that actually happened. And they were also talking about the wall they need to build across the border. The conversation was originally about hiring new janitorial and receptionist staff. I was called into HR for cussing 2 of my coworkers out for being racist and saying all that crazy S. I was told to calm it down and I was told to stay in my office for the day and wasn't allowed to go out on my usual field of duty. Well, congratulations. This work environment actually handled that situation well because coworkers shouldn't be cussing out other coworkers over politics. Come on, man. That is ridiculous. All right. Private opinions. This is just about like the types of issues that are discussed in the workplace. Gun control was number 1. Racism, of course, number 2. Actually, I bet you if this study was done, actually, I don't know. Did they say when this study was conducted? I don't know if they actually did. I wonder when exactly this study was conducted, because if it was recently, I would actually expect racism to be much higher than gun control, but who knows? Okay, here's another quote. I had a coworker attempt to get me fired after learning I didn't agree with her political beliefs that all guns should be banned because they didn't feel safe with a gun owner in the workplace. It is important to note I did not in any way whatsoever make any kind of threat, explicit nor implied. Merely identifying myself as a gun owner was what was reported as making them unsafe. And I think we can all guess what side did the reporting and what side was reported on, obviously, because the right ain't reporting on the left for owning a gun. And then the impact of being political. Look at this. General issues discussed at work. The president. The economy. That makes sense. But look at this. Political issues causing the most workplace tension in workplaces where each issue was discussed. President. I don't think that any of us are surprised by that. Not one iota. Now listen. I've said in the course of this election that I don't know. I want Trump to have a second term. I really, really, really do. But at the same time, maybe, okay. And I am actually not in favor of, patting all this screaming leftists on the head and and, giving them a reward for their bad behavior. I don't think that that's good. But one of the reasons that I'm just not as afraid of Joe Biden ultimately winning as I think many people are is I actually think it might be nice. I think it might cause a lot less stress on people. I think it might cause a lot less strain. Not that I want that to happen, but if we're thinking about why something, like, you always want to look at the benefits of something happening. Do I want Joe Biden to be president? No, obviously not. But might there be benefits to that? Well, yeah, I think we can look at that situation and say, okay, even though there's going to be a lot of mess to clean up, even though, especially when the Republicans inevitably take back everything in the midterms, there's going to be a lot of mess to clean up, and that's going to suck, and we're going to have to keep having these discussions about critical race theory, and he's obviously going to rescind Trump's executive order and all these things. There's a lot of bad that could come of it, but it's okay to also look at the benefits that could come from it. The fact that, we wouldn't have this 47.2% of people who are causing chaos in their workplace over their absolute hatred of Donald Trump. Do I think that it's fair that they're causing this? No. Do I think that they all have Trump derangement syndrome? Well, probably. But might it be nice? Well, yeah. And then we have this one last quote. I told people I don't think Trump is the most racist person out there, nor a white supremacist. A few people have given me the cold shoulder since then. Because, obviously, that is the lot in life of a Trump supporter. Anywho, I just thought that this study was kind of interesting. I will link the whole thing in the description below so you can go take a look at it. That's all I've got for right now. I'll see you soon.